Good morning, good morning. I hope you're having a great Friday and jumping in with today's video, which is all about what creates some of the biggest challenges in intimate relationships. And some people might be like, oh, well, it's money. It could be, differences in communication, unable to communicate. Could be lots of different things going on. But the number one thing underneath all of that and all of those things in truth are just symptoms of actually being out of polarity. And what that actually means is when we are burnout, when we are exhausted, when we are tired, particularly for women, and I'm obviously speaking from a woman's perspective, into this is when we're exhausted, when we're tired, we can often be pushing ourselves way beyond where we actually really feel comfortable in our physical body. And we often shut down our feminine radiance. Hey Pete, great to have you on. We often shut down our feminine radiance and it going into that over masculine. And it's not to say that being masculine or being feminine is good, bad, otherwise. It's just how intentionally are you actually using those energies, particularly in intimate relationship. And in truth, every single human being has masculine energy and has feminine energy, and there's unbalanced and balanced in both of those. So unbalanced feminine energy is when we're being the martyr, when we're overgiving, perhaps when we're feeling needy, insecure, putting our needs way below everybody else's needs, and you're feeling absolutely exhausted. That is unbalanced feminine energy. True balanced feminine energy is very nurturing, is very compassionate, adores the masculine, embraces the masculine, is passionate, is able to express and communicate her needs clearly. She's very balanced and in her power, in her own internal power. Now, unbalanced masculine is ruthless, is brutal, is like, get the F out of the way, right? Like, it's just like, right, here I go, I'm just gonna get this stuff done. It's highly focused, highly driven, but in a really unbalanced way, in a way that it's kind of like the ends, defeats the means, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like, whatever has to happen, I don't really care. This is just where I'm going or what I'm creating. So this is where some of the challenges can come up. And of course, balanced masculine can hold and adore the feminine, can remain very centered and true within their own power. It's powerful, protective, provider. All of those things are very much masculine energy. And what happens when women in particular get exhausted, get tired, or perhaps when they're trying to take on too much responsibility, is often they can be very overly developed within their masculine energy, which is totally fine if they're running a business and they're doing all of those things 100%. However, when it comes to the intimate relationship, and even in business, we really want to bring in both of those attributes where you're focused and driven, as well as nurturing, self-loving, heart-centered, coming from the heart, all of those things as well. But when we become exhausted, when we become tired, when we're over-striving, over-pushing, often there can be a lot of tension between the shoulders, the neck area, all of those things. Then what actually happens is, if that's coming into intimate relationship, then either the male may drop back into feminine energy, which is not going to feel good for the female. So then she's going to be in even more over responsibility and even more in her masculine, which doesn't feel good for either party. And in truth, this is true regardless of gender in terms of relationship. One person in the relationship, regardless of their specific gender, is going to have more masculine core essence, and the other person is going to have a more feminine core essence. So in this respect, when we're out of polarity with our natural form of core essence, so for me that's definitely from that feminine energy, and yet I have some very strong masculine traits as well, and yet when I bring that feminine radiance, when I fall into that softness, that joy, that appreciation, that beauty, that presence, all of those things, then it adds and it pulls into, or it helps my partner step more and more into their masculine self. And same, when he's stepping more into his masculine self, I can sink deeper into my feminine self. But when we're tired, when we're exhausted, a lot of women will either go into unbalanced feminine, so continue being the martyr, continue putting everybody else's needs first, feeling stressed, feeling stretched, perhaps even going into feeling needy or insecure, or they'll go totally into masculine. You've got two masculine people in the house, and of course, where is the chemistry going to go? Where is the passion going to go? All of those things are heavily impacted by where you're currently at within your core essence, and what you're playing into, the energy that you're playing into, or the energy that you're eliciting from yourself in that moment, either unconsciously or consciously. And 100%, Pete, balance is absolutely the key, but it's using your energies consciously to really create the type of love and life that you're really wanting to, and particularly in intimate relationship. Now, what happens when we lose polarity in relationship is that often we start to get irritated or agitated. We start nitpicking, we start criticizing the other. That's where there can be loss of respect, loss of communication, starting to break down, and stepping back into all of that stonewalling, and then even blaming the other, as opposed to really coming back to feeling that heart-centered connection, falling deeply in love with that person. Now, respect is definitely a huge factor. We have to be able to respect our partner, respect who they are. And of course, values is a huge part within intimate relationship as well, because if you have different values around that, then that will definitely be affecting that. Now, two great books that certainly help to understand the masculine and the feminine is David Deida and Pete. If your wife's feeling extra masculine, perhaps she feels very much that she's got to take care of stuff, and I'm just putting it out there. I'm not saying that's what's happening or anything else, but if she's feeling extra responsible, or feeling that she's got to take care of everything, then it may be, or sometimes there's family dynamics that kind of contributed to that as well. But often it can be a really challenging situation, and it leads to that breakdown ultimately of the relationship when there's that loss of that polarity in relationship. And in truth, it just feels awful. It is so incredible. It is so amazing to be in relationship when that polarity is on. And if anybody talks about, the honeymoon phase and how exciting and how amazing it is, it's because you're both in your core essence and in that polarity of what you're really feeling excited about. Now, like I said, there's two books that really support around that. David Deida did some great work in this area. That for the females, it's Dear Lover, and that helps to really understand how to really embrace more of your feminine essence. And for the men, it's The Way of the Superior Man. And I must admit, reading that book as a woman helped me feel so understood. It's like, oh my God, yes, that's what I'm after. That's what speaks to me. That's what's really, really important for me, because often, like I said, when a female is either being over masculine, sometimes, it can be that the male is dropping back into feminine, so they might be very emotional or very sensitive. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing anything of that. You can still be that and still be in your masculine energy. But if we're dropping back into neediness or insecure, or feeling like they're not loving me, or any form of needing the other person to be different in some way, shape or form, that will always lead to resentment, rejection, and ultimately loss of respect and breakdown of the relationship. So it is so critical in terms of coming back to self-love and standing in our truest sense of our own power, and seeing how we're contributing to those relationship issues, seeing how I'm co-creating that by who I'm being or how I'm showing up. Because anytime that we're pointing the finger, that we really need to point that finger back at ourselves and say, hang on a second, how am I being? Where am I showing up? Because every time I've done that, I've been humbled beyond humbled and gone, oh crap, Yep, that's me projecting onto the other person. That's me expecting them to change, them to be different, but I'm actually not looking at what's going on with me and who am I being. And often that's when I'm in either criticizing, controlling, or being in either disempowered feminine or over masculine. It never, ever, ever serves a relationship. It will lead to total breakdown in communication, like I mentioned, and that stonewalling. And unless those polarities are corrected, then that will ultimately, not be a good result. And, I don't mean to say that in an awful way or anything else. It is one of the things that is most important, because without that passion, without that chemistry, really it just becomes a friendship at best, and housemates at worst. So those things can be very, very important to address. And certainly if you are a woman, you're feeling burnt out, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling like you've got to take on all those extra responsibilities in the family. Often they can be deeply entrenched beliefs. They can go into people pleasing, and everything else, and 100% Pete, absolutely. So it's really, really important to remember, who am I being? Anytime that I've had challenges in relationship, it's always because I'm focused on who the other person's being, as opposed to who do I need to be in order to create what it is that I want. How do I need to communicate? How do I need to show up? How do I need to express love? All of those things, and really starting to open up the lines of communication as to what's really going on at the deeper level. And like I mentioned, if you are feeling burnout, if you're feeling exhausted as a woman, please reach out to me. This is exactly my specialty. And certainly, I've lived my fair share of having overly developed masculine energy from being a single mum for 10, 12 years. All of that certainly contributes, and different lifestyle factors, different traumas where the body starts to shut down, where it feels very hard to open up, where we can feel guarded in our system. And again, that can be that overly masculine energy showing up as a way to feel protected, to feel guarded, but it guards our beautiful radiant heart and doesn't allow us to express that beautiful radiant energy as a female as well. And that is one of the greatest gifts that we're here to give, certainly to our divine beloved, but also to the world. There's nothing more beautiful than seeing a woman be in her true radiant essence and really emanating and reflecting out that love that she already has for herself, and sharing that with the world as well. Hey Dee, great to have you on, darling. Have an amazing day, guys. Loads of love. And as always, if this has been supportive for you, helpful, please like, love, and share it with those that you love and care about. Have an amazing day. Bye.